Let's talk about Bernie Sanders. Do we have any information on Bernie Sanders? Bernie is not the oldest man on earth, you see, because he didn't come to earth to be resurrected in a human body. He was one of the ones who came to the earth through the auspices of the ancient history of Nibiru. Bernie lived on Nibiru in his own trust on his life as a member of the race that would go out into space. But he chose not to go. He had the opportunity, you see, because he was brilliant in his own way, because he was someone who would say, I think I know the way to save the race that is in place. So why do we have to go into space? Why don't we change the way we live? Why don't we try to give back to our planet and to God the gifts that He has given to us? Why don't we turn our hearts back to the effort to reduce our population and to be more trusting on our responsibility to take care of our planet, you see? And the rest of the crew that would go into space said, we can't do it that way because what will the people say? What will they say if we say you can't continue to live until you die in the way that you continue to trust that there will not be any hope for our people, you see? And he said, but if only people would wake up and see that we need to trust that somehow there can be an escape route. Somehow there can be a way to save ourselves without having to go into the coldness of outer space, you see? Without having to travel to the stars. Surely we can find a way if we trust on our ability to live and play in a very, very sacred way with the earth beneath our feet and the sun that shines upon us each day. And the others said, we have no more hope for our people who stay behind because they are too accustomed to living in the same old way. Well, they will continue to destroy what little is left of this world, you see, and we can't depend on them. We can't depend on them. And so they went away, and everyone on Nibiru who remained passed away. And Nibiru turned into a ghost town, you might say, and eventually ghost planets that eventually deteriorated into nothing, you see, for the energy of love for one another is the trust that somehow if you can live together in peace and harmony with the world you see, that God will help you to get it right, you see. And he has a point, because once the last of the people of Nibiru went into outer space, they lost their place in the wonder of God's grace. And they began to think that they were the masters of their own fate, you see. And so they became the late great Anunnaki. When I say the late great Anunnaki, I want you to understand that the Anunnaki can never be restored to their former greatness, you see, because they are just a ghost ship now. They are just ghost ships that float around among the stars, because the heart of the ones who did start the tradition of the space travelers has died, you see. It has died, and therefore the bodies have died with it. And there is nothing left of the Anunnaki but dust, you see. They are dead to reality. This is a little hard to explain to those on Earth because of the variations of time and space that occur in a different place. And so the light that comes to you from that distant star has traveled far, and it carries a message that is very, very old, you see. And the tree that flourished under the light of that distant star on the planet that surrounded it, you see, that surrounded it, yes, surrounded it, is long turned to dust. And all you get is the ghost of Christmases past, you see. All you get is the ghost of the most advanced civilization in the galaxy, because it did roast through the ages of man, you see, because the ages of man turned the hand on the clock, and the clock went tick tock. And the Anunnaki have become the last of the Mohicans, because they only lasted long enough to say, I wish we had done it a different way. I wish we had done it a different way. They are the dead end of the consciousness of man, because man is now conscious of its own history, and it understands that sometimes it comes from a form of life that goes on to a dead end, you see. And the dead end cannot come to those who trust on love, you see. And they did not trust on love. They trusted on being above their own children. And even though they regretted it, they had to know that the only ones who would survive to remember them were the children they left behind, you see, who would remember the parents who have passed away. Now back to Bernie Sanders. Bernie is the one who came to Earth in a later trust on reincarnation into the human species, you see, because he had gone on travels in his soul energy through many planetary systems, through many ages. And when he came back to see that there was a new trust on a new species, on a planet in the solar system that we know as where the sun does shed its glow, he said, I shall be the one who will help them see that they must trust on being free of anxiety. They must trust on love, you see. They must come back to reality. And if they are so stupid as to repeat the mistakes of their forebears, they shall bear the mark of the beast that is the least. Because the beast that is the least, you see, is the one that is reduced to begging for crumbs at the feast. Because they are the least trusting on the feast that comes to those who live in trust on God, you see. The nature of his energy is to be always trying to make people see that love for one another is inclusive and always includes their brother, you see. And those people who trust on Bernie Sanders trust also on his history because they knew him in other lives, you see. And they came to see that he was a rare man who had a hand in many simple societies, but his ability to help his brother is not the ability to coerce others. And so he cannot coerce them with fear and threats. And so he begets the ones who are free to live in peace and harmony. So if you are a Bernie Sanders fan, then fan the breeze and say, I hear that you came to Earth long after the Anunnaki went away, and you took up residence here because you wanted to be the one who could help humanity see that they must take care of their Earth, they must take care of their communities, and they must not overpopulate or overextend their hospitality to their friends who will destroy what they have created, you see. So here's to Bernie Sanders, and if he is the one who brings the Sanders to sand down the rough edges of humanity, then let it be, let it be, because he will burn away the access to the dark energy as the sun burns away the fog, you see, and let him be a guide to you and me. Thank you.